This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in New Mexico. I'm here with AUDIVITA. Since 2017, they're providing a state-of-the-art remote recording process, helping you build a strategy, record, edit, and distribute, so you can bring your message to market fast. I'm joined with David Wolf, who's the founder and CEO. David, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself. You're formerly educated at Berklee College of Music. You have a long history of serving as a music composer and producer of audio content for radio, TV, film, podcasts, audiobooks, and multimedia. In your prior company, you have been trusted by well-known giants in the industry, such as Amblin, Discovery Channel, NBC Universal, Disney, Southwest Airlines, and many more. Share with me a little bit how you got started doing this and helping others grow their brands and businesses through audio and video.
Absolutely. So I spent, as you pointed out, Jerry, I spent a lot of years first playing as a musician and then eventually learning how to compose and write for radio, TV, and film scoring. I worked with a lot of advertising agencies and brands over about a 30-year period. We had studios in Chicago, then in Dallas and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and had studios that did serve the film industry, as you mentioned, NBC, Discovery, etc. We were doing ADR and looping and production work for all of these places in between the music projects we were doing. So after about 20 or so years in this business, when I turned 40, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think it's time to just change it up a little bit. So I closed shop. I had kind of aged out of the advertising music business, at least in my own mind, and moved to New Mexico, where I took over and redeployed a brand outside of the industry entirely. It was a bakery business of all things. And I ran that as the CEO after the turnaround for about 8 or 9 years or so it was a family business. So it was with my brother and his wife and my brother. So my brother, his wife, and myself and my wife. And closing, basically conveying that to my brother, I circled back to the roots of production. Here's where I really began to inject my experience producing for brands and for film and radio and television, and really taking that cumulative experience and channeling it into a company that now produces audiobooks and podcasts for small, mid-sized, and some larger businesses all over the world, really, at this point.
That is a great story. I mean, you kind of zig and zagged here in the last few years. Yeah. That is an interesting story, going in with your family like that. The term podcast, as we know it, started all the way back in 2004, previously known as audio blogs back in the 80s. Why would you say podcasts have grown so much in popularity?
Well, I think it's a natural evolution of the democratization of media. There's a few different things you're pointing to there baked into that question. One is the technology, the ability to record high quality audio and video anywhere we can now using iPhones or other types of portable devices has really opened up the ability for anyone to have a voice and get it out into the world. And so I think that people want to be heard and they want to get their messages out, and the ability to do it relatively inexpensively, back when there were the 3 television networks, for example, or radio stations, it was a very expensive thing to get any kind of messaging out to a mass audience. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say, Jerry, is the behavioral shift with people. And we've seen this in our business, particularly in audio, although a lot of our work is now video and audio together. But the audio market is exploding right now, simply because people want to be able to listen on the go. So it's a function of really the mobility of things, if you like, to be commuting, to be driving, to be walking the dog, to be riding your bicycle, jogging, walking,
you name it.
The ability to consume content anywhere and anyhow you like in a time-shifted manner. All of these things coming together have formed an explosive ecosystem called podcasting.
I agree, a definite explosion. I mean, as of this year, there's an estimated 3 million podcasts. The data shows that 464 million worldwide podcast listeners. I mean, with 22% of all internet users listening, it's safe to say that podcasts are here to stay, and they've really become mainstream media. I mean, some people are basically disconnecting from TV and whatnot and turning that way to receive their content.
Yeah, the so-called cable cutters. The ability to curate your own content rather than being subject to a predetermined programming schedule is one of the premier and fascinating reasons podcasting has developed into such a big market. And we're seeing this also in the audiobook space, the consumer behavioral shift to listening rather than reading.
Yeah. I mean, your company can provide anyone the opportunity to include a podcast series in their marketing strategy. Can a podcast help grow your platform while building your brand? And can it definitely ramp up your online authority?
Yeah, it does all of those things, as you're pointing out. The ability to be the voice of your own brand, presuming you're the host of your own podcast, or the subject of an interview like I am with you today, really opens up the ability to get your brand out in a relatively easy, inexpensive way to do, and in mass. It's phenomenal. So we position the podcast work that we do for all of our clients. We have about 45 shows in production at our given size. We position the product for our clients as one that is a component to their overall content marketing ecosystem. It's only a part of it because social media, really LinkedIn for if you're B2B, Facebook, Twitter, of course, and Instagram, to name a few, are all pieces of the puzzle, along with the other kinds of marketing you do that may be offline. So
a lot of moving pieces out there when you're talking about distribution. Yeah. Each podcast is as unique as the hosts and guests themselves. To take an idea for a podcast from inception to market, are you able to guide them through the entire process? Can you kind of explain phase one, the creating of the podcast series, what takes place there?
Great question. So, and this is one of the things we're very proud that we do. We're a boutique service provider. We have a marvelous team. I've been very lucky. I've attracted an amazing team, very talented people. And we work very closely with the client in the beginning stages, particularly for the new podcaster, which I would say on a percentage basis is most of our clients are starting anew. It's rare that we're taking over an existing series, although it does happen. So for the new podcaster, we sit down with them on a series of calls. We write the intro, the outro, the positioning language, the call to action. We can help, in many cases, create the graphics. If it's a video and audio series together, we'll create the motion graphics, intros and outros to really position their brand and up-level the production so that they really, it looks like a polished show. And so all of this language, all of this positioning and the music and the emotional feeling and also the format of the show is very important in terms of establishing your platform as a podcast host. There are very interesting things you can do with format, like what we call a pull quote, where, and you've heard this before, you hear a piece of the interview before the music kicks in and the intro starts. As one example of many things you can do, you can have rituals within the series format, the 30 or so minutes of your show, where you ask the same 5 questions, or maybe there's a trivial type of moment in the show, or whatever it is. But we help the podcaster, the new podcaster, take their business, design it so that it's being projected and reflected in the show itself. And in order to change the listener behavior, what is it that you want them to do? We ask our podcasters. And so we help them formulate how to activate their audience to do those things.
So many tricks of the trade that your typical podcaster wouldn't know. You're able to share your expertise. I mean, not only can you help anyone, but anyone really from anywhere. I mean, this is online remote recording, yet with a real-time producer. I mean, you really streamline the process. Can most of this be done right from a client's home office?
So one of the amazing transitions in the industry, particularly for me, who has spent a whole lot of money on building recording studios in the music business, is that our business is completely virtual. Not only is our team virtual in terms of we all actually are in the Albuquerque area, but we work virtually. And so we work with our clients virtually as well. So there's no real estate, there's no physicality. Occasionally we will do an audiobook project, which is the other side of our business, and we've been focused on podcasting quite a bit so far. But on the audiobook side of our business, we work with authors all over the world, and using software that creates a studio-like sound from their home or home office. So all of that has really liberated our ability to work with an international clientele in a lot of ways, both on the podcast and the audiobook side.
Like CNTV, the sky became the limit when we basically could
That's
reach
exactly
out
right.
there across the nation, even worldwide. I mean, once a podcast series is created, can you kind of explain how phase two gets the message published and really out to the world?
Yeah, I love that. So we do recommend that our podcasters pre-record and we produce about a minimum of 4 episodes, because typically it's a weekly iteration, a weekly cadence of release. And God forbid your guest cancels or you get sick or you need to cancel a week. This way you've got inventory and you're not chasing deadlines for release schedules. So phase two is all about moving into episodic production in a reliable, consistent way. So each week our hosts will schedule with one of our 5 or 6 producers we have that record with us. They meet online using a link. We use any number of platforms. We have our favorites, but we have several platforms we use for remote recording. It's not Zoom or Skype. These are higher quality audio because they do end-to-end recording. So we use those. And the engineer meets them online, gets a sound check, and we record the 30-minute or so content. From there, we take it and we do an editing pass. And different clients have different needs. Some of our folks, as I telegraphed earlier, do hybrid, which is video plus audio. So in those instances, we're editing from the video and then stripping the audio for audio distribution. The next part of phase two, after the episode is approved by our client, is to get it scheduled and out into production with the show notes on the network: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, etc. So we network them out via RSS, which is a fancy expression for the way podcasts are distributed. And then we're on to next week's scheduling and show. So it's this iterative cycle. It's nice for us as a business because it's a recurring revenue model for us. And for the podcaster, doing it every week really helps them build that momentum with the audience development.
Definitely a team of professionals that you're basically tapping into there. I mean, you mentioned audiobooks. Let's face it, in today's busy world, finding the dedicated time to consume content of a book is rare to find. I mean, consumers are listening to books while they eat, exercise, commute. In the last 10 years, those who listen to audiobooks have grown by more than 100%. I mean, are audiobooks an area that you think are going to continue growing and definitely something that you're moving to?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been there for a good 15 years, and then with the business about 5 years ago, it's absolutely exploded. We're currently producing 200 audiobooks a year, and we're really just a small part of the market, as being a very high-touch boutique kind of a business. We work with publishers and authors directly. We work with coaches that work with authors, helping them write the book. We work with so-called author services providers that provide a range of things for authors to help them get their book off the ground. So in terms of, you've asked about the market is continuing to grow. It's doubled, it's grown about 15 double-digit growth for the last 5 years for sure, since roughly 2015, which is actually more than 5 years. And we've been exploding with that market, with our publishing partners and so forth. What it does, Jerry, is it really helps unlock this consumer that doesn't feel they have time to sit and read. There's a perceived scarcity of time. And so that's A. And B would be, I'd say, some people just do a better job of consuming information by listening rather than reading. The mechanics don't work as well for them reading, so they like to listen. So for those 2 reasons, and probably a few that I'm not thinking of in this moment, the market is just absolutely exploding.
Wow.
And there are some interesting developments with AI, and as in so many places now. It's happening very quickly. And of course, we have our eye on AI as this unfolds.
I mean, it has to be a game changer for authors out there. I mean, you're able to partner up with publishing companies. You're able to generate new income streams from many of these authors. Podcasts, audiobooks, even educators can benefit. Are interactive courses increasing online, and is e-learning becoming a big part of what you provide as well?
So we dabbled in e-learning a bit over the last couple of years, I'd say 21 and 22, but it's not really our core business at the moment. What we decided as a team is that we do 2 things really well, and it's easy to be distracted by some of the requests that some of our other clients require, but our focus is really on the podcast, episodic podcast production, video and audio, and the audiobook market. So I'd say we backed off of e-learning. We did some projects there, and it is absolutely exploding with many platforms that one can really create their own platform on the platform and then sell courses. It's a marvelous model.
I mean, A live event can create a buzz and urgency more so than a tape series does. Can your technology kind of be adapted to capture and distribute these live events as well?
So we are doing a certain amount of hybrid, again, a third level to the hybrid,
Yeah.
which are we have clients that like to stream live, let's say once a week. Of the 4 shows they'll do in a month, they'll do 1 live. We have a couple of clients that stream every week. So we handle it like live television, not unlike what we're doing here. It streams live out to all the usual suspects, YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, etc. And then we repackage the audio for audio distribution. And of course, the video lives on YouTube as a recorded episode for them. Now, we handle this as a live event, meaning we fly in graphics, lower thirds, B-roll if we need it. So it takes on the feel of live television,
Yeah.
but it's a little down and dirty, if you will. But it's part of what we now expect from media. It's not so polished and
Totally.
produced. It's on the fly, and it feels very real and very in the moment, which I think is a plus.
I built CNTV on what I call virtual live. Basically, that feeling that it's a live event going on. You definitely are trailblazers when it comes to helping people, especially that are starting a podcast out there and maybe getting some views and they want to distribute that. Helping connect your voice to the world is your team's passion. You are now able to apply your experience, talent, skills, and expertise of your entire creative team to help your clients. Does this continue to be rewarding for you? And do you enjoy this part of the journey?
Absolutely. So, as I explained, I spent a lot of years writing music for radio, TV, and film. And in that world is a very soloistic type of endeavor. You're in your studio, you're writing, you're at the piano, you're preparing, and it's not really a social activity until you get into the studio and you're with musicians in a studio recording the piece of music. This chapter for me, and I think you're really asking about me as a CEO and founder and where I am at my early 60s, it's extremely satisfying in a completely, entirely different set of ways. I've got my internal customers, which are my team, that I serve every day to help them enrich their lives, create meaningful work with meaningful relationships for them. At the same time, that echoes out into the marketplace as we continue to interact with the clients that we're working with to help them get their message, their voice, their book, their podcast out into the world. So it's very satisfying to see me pleasing the inner circle and helping them create lives that are satisfying and in balance professionally, and also to see our partners grow their businesses, our clients and partners grow their readership or listenership, if you like, and on the podcast side, growing their businesses
Or just their listenership of the podcast series itself.
Very glad to share your story out there with my viewers. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, you can see all the services they provide. Information for creating a podcast series or an audiobook are all right there for you on the site. If you already have a series and maybe you're generating at least 10,000 streams per episode, the AUDIVITA network can help you grow and monetize beyond where you're at. Check out testimonials and sign up for their newsletter right there on the website. If you got a project, reach out for a phone consultation. That's basically how it begins. Once again, that is AUDIVITA. Connect your voice to the world. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.